Season 2 of MMPR didn't use a lot of the monsters. It could have been because of the Die Ranger monsters being too awkward to use, they did weirder stories compared to Jew Ranger, or because of the forced use of Jew 2 footage being spliced in. Season 2 ends up having only around 30 new monsters for 52 episodes. Picking 10 bad monsters was complicated.
Pursehead.
I want to get this one out of the way first. I know everyone is yelling at the screen, but let me explain why. Yes, this is a three-parter. Yes, this is a very important beginning. Lord Zed is introduced. They get rid of Rita. We got the new Thunderzords. But Pursehead just sits there and blows his fish flute and does nothing else. Thanks to Saban deciding to start using Die Ranger footage, which, great idea, but you should have done that since day one. The writers were forced to use the remaining Jew 2 stuff and do the whole splicing between the two series. So whatever this episode's footage was to intend to be used as originally had to be scrapped, so all this made the monster useless. They were stuck reusing the footage of him blowing the fish flute over and over. The whole freezing the dinosaur stuff was confusing. You just gotta love it when Kim Zord is frozen in midair. Then he finally gets to fight the new Thunder Megazord, but there's no direct contact between them. It was just poorly done. This is a perfect example of bad writing and extending a single episode into a three-parter. I just love when Zordon is saying they need the old Zords in order to activate the new Zords, but they're clearly moving around.
Nimrod.
This monster was just confusing and bad. I know MMPR was forced to use her since she was the monster that Kiba Ranger fought for the first time in Die Ranger, but MMPR didn't have a good story wrapped around Nimrod. On top of it, she just randomly introduces two other monsters, badly called AC and DC, no explanation of where they came from. Monsters are normally created by objects from Zed's staff, but Nimrod created them from thin air. It mainly extends from the whole White Ranger secret thing. They were building up to the so-called reveal, but this caused the monsters to be an afterthought to the story.
Keykeeper.
I hate when Power Rangers just burns footage. I felt that Keykeeper was such a wasted opportunity. I know, the Die Ranger episode would have made him hard to adapt, but PR has used monsters that did do stuff that wouldn't be allowed on US shows, but usually they get around that by making original Monster vs. Ranger fights. In a way, I'm glad the show used a few seconds of footage, but I still think they could have done a good standalone story or a Halloween episode starring him instead of recycling Jew 2 suits.
Vase Face.
It always seems that whenever Tommy does something like dressing up as Frankenstein's monster, Rita then creates an evil version of that. Tommy gets an evil clone of himself. Now this, he creates Vase for a school project and is turned into a monster. But it's awkward because the episode was about Billy, not Tommy. And they're fighting an evil twin of him. What does that got to do with the Vase monster? They never fight a giant version of Evil Billy. There was no real payoff. And why didn't Zed create the Vase monster sooner to help Evil Billy out? This is a personal issue I have in MMPR Season 2. A lot of times they just throw in a Megazord fight just because they have to hit a quota of some sort. I know Bandai needs to sell toys, but if you can't get a Megazord fight in naturally, don't bother.
Showbiz Monster.
This one was hard to pick on. On one hand, them doing a story that acknowledges the Rangers being role models and that people exist besides the school was great. But at the same time, it was done very simple, too happy-go-lucky, the news didn't follow them to the monster fight, the guy asks who was on the communicator, nothing happens. They could have easily continued this as a small thread that could have went on through Season 2, along with intersecting Bulk and Skull's plot, but nothing. Zed just creates this monster, they end the interview stuff, and move on to the next episode. This would have been a great two-parter. If you want a good Ranger Exposed episode, go watch the Time Force one.
Pursehead.
This monster was just pointless. Another burned Die Ranger monster footage issue, because again, the original episode's monster did really creepy things with people. Put statues on their heads and brainwashed them, so they couldn't use any of that material, so they went into the direction of transforming Trini's purse. At best, Pursehead was a sacrifice to make the lip syncer monster look good. They might as well have not used it at all and just transformed the lipstick from the get-go.
MONDO.
I like Bukala. I always go for those weird, goofy episodes, and yeah, Bukala needed an enemy to run away from, but Wilda was wasted. He just couldn't get any good screen time, mainly seeing him in the viewing globe, or just two main fight moments. To top it off, he was killed by Billy's Blade Blaster. I always thought that was really lame when MMPR killed off monsters with the Power Blaster without the giant fight, but being killed off by a Blade Blaster? How weak was this guy? It just made him look stupid.
Terror Blossom.
Every time PR makes a plant monster story, it's always figuring out where to germinate its seeds. All the plant monsters end up doing the same thing. I always ask, why do you make yourselves visible? If your goal is to solely make an army of plants, then why aren't you just doing that? Don't fight the rangers, don't announce yourself, just plant your seeds. I pretty much hate all the plant monster episodes because of this. Very rarely do I like them. Also, the Terra Blossom was too similar to the Bloom of Doom.
Needlenose.
I could never like this monster because I hated the Wild West Rangers two-parter. Again, PR can't do time travel that good. It was a cool idea to have them go to the West, but it was filled with confusing issues. For example, why did Alpha make half the command center have wood barn doors? The suit's having a Western mode. Then you have the whole altering time problem with the episodes. The Rangers interacting with their past relatives. Another thing, Zordon and Alpha would have remembered them when they first met the Rangers. Needlenose just doesn't fit into the time travel story. He just felt way too generic. The only real connection is him being a cactus. Want a decent time travel story? Go watch Turbo's When Time Freezes Over.
MONDO the Magician.
For my most hated monster from Season 2 is MONDO. No, not King Mondo. I love the storybook Ranger episodes, but them using this footage has got to be the worst case of burning footage ever in Power Rangers. First, Mondo doesn't fit into any of the story styles they do. The Zord fight made no sense. Even when I was a kid, I was saying, why is some metal punk guy in this book? What is going on here? It was made worse when I found out he was one of the main villains in Die Ranger. We were seeing a major fight and PR turns it into some garbage. I know MMPR could never use the Goma stuff in any good way, but they should have never went near this guy at all. What were they thinking? That's it on my thoughts for these Season 2 monsters. I personally think Season 2 was a low point in the show. It started good, but as it got along, Season 2 started messing up with the plots and using monsters in really poor ways. What do you guys think of Season 2's monsters? What's on your personal list of bad ones? Next episode will be the best monsters in Season 3.